The reflection in the floor-to-ceiling glass of the Chicago high-rise showed the same face as always: weary, jade-green eyes, a jaw clenched tight, and an expression that not even a multi-billion-dollar fortune could soften. Ethan Hayes adjusted the knot of his tie, a nervous tic that surfaced whenever he felt the familiar unease creeping in. Far below, the city throbbed with the relentless rhythm of honking cars and the restless pulse of life. Up here on the 45th floor, the silence was a stark, almost oppressive counterpoint. "Mr. Hayes, the board meeting starts in 5 minutes." His assistant's voice, crisp and efficient, crackled through the intercom. Ethan sighed, his gaze lost in the urban sprawl that stretched to the misty shores of Lake Michigan. At 35, he helmed a corporate empire his father had spent a lifetime building, yet he felt a profound emptiness, as hollow as the countless glasses of bourbon he nursed during lonely nights in his Gold Coast penthouse. "Let them know I'm on my way, Ashley," he replied, his voice a monotone as he picked up his sleek tablet. Another meeting, more spreadsheets, more acquisitions, more of everything that failed to fill the expanding void in his chest. The panoramic elevator descended with silent speed through the floors of one of the most prestigious towers on Wacker Drive. Ethan watched his own reflection flicker in the polished steel, trying to recall the last time a genuine smile had reached his eyes. How long had it been? 6 months? A year? The recent past was a blur of power lunches, endless negotiations, and solitary nights. In the boardroom, the plush leather chairs were filled with the usual cast of executives, their tailored suits barely concealing their envy of the young heir. Ethan took his position at the head of the table, launching into his presentation with a well-rehearsed, almost robotic energy. "Our third quarter exceeded projections by 15%. His voice resonated as the charts danced across the screen. "Our expansion in the sector." That was when his gaze drifted, catching something outside the window. Across the street, an old brick building held his attention. It wasn't the pre-war architecture that captivated him, but a faded sign, its paint peeling to reveal the ghostly letters of a restaurant's name: The Family Table. The name struck a chord deep inside him, a long, dormant memory of Sunday pot, roasts in his grandmother's kitchen, the comforting aroma filling the house, the sound of his father's laughter. Not the stern businessman he became, but the man who used to toss a football with him while his mother set the table. "Mr. Hayes?" A director's voice pulled him back to the present. Ethan cleared his throat, pushing on with the presentation, but his mind remained tethered to that faded sign. Something about the place called to him, a distant melody he couldn't quite place, but felt compelled to follow. After the meeting, instead of heading back to his office, Ethan remained in the empty conference room, his eyes fixed on the building across the street. Ashley entered quietly, leaving another file on his desk. "Ashley," he called, his gaze unwavering. "Find out everything you can about that restaurant, The Family Table. I want to know if it's for sale. But, sir, the merger report? The report can wait." That night, in his sprawling Gold Coast penthouse, Ethan poured his customary aged bourbon, but for the first time in a long, long time, it wasn't to numb his frustrations. In his hands, a manila envelope held all the information about the restaurant. Closed 5 years ago. Previous owner deceased. Unresolved family disputes. The asking price was a rounding error for a man of his means. His eyes scanned the glittering city through the vast windows. Chicago never slept, and neither did he, but tonight felt different. Tonight, for the first time in years, Ethan Hayes felt a flicker of something beyond his usual emptiness. It was as if that derelict restaurant was beckoning him, promising something his vast fortune could never purchase: a sense of purpose. With a decisive gesture, he picked up the phone. "Ashley, prepare the documents to purchase the restaurant. I don't care what it costs. I want the deal closed as soon as possible." He hung up before his assistant could voice her inevitable protest. Tomorrow he would visit the place. For now he stood there, savoring his bourbon and picturing the possibilities. Maybe, just maybe, that abandoned restaurant was exactly what he needed to fill the void in his life. What Ethan didn't know, as he gazed out at the slumbering city, was that his impulsive decision was about to change his life in ways he could never have imagined. Sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places, like an abandoned restaurant with stories yet to be told. The key turned in the lock with a metallic groan that echoed through the silent building. Ethan Hayes hesitated for a moment before pushing open the heavy wooden door of the family table. The air inside was thick, heavy with the ghosts of yesterday and years of neglect. The beam of his phone's flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing tables shrouded in dusty white cloths. His footsteps echoed on the creaking wooden floor, each sound a whisper from the past. The walls, though peeling, still showed remnants of a cozy, patterned wallpaper. "So this is my new project," he murmured to himself, his voice sounding small and out of place in the cavernous space. Behind the bar, empty bottles lined the shelves, their labels faded with time. Ethan ran his fingers along the solid wood of the counter, imagining the stories the place had witnessed. He could almost hear the clinking of glasses, the murmur of happy patrons, the soft hum of conversation on a busy night. The kitchen was a large space, its industrial equipment blanketed by a thick layer of grime. Even so, Ethan could see its potential. The stainless steel counters, though tarnished, were high quality. The hulking stove, silent for years, seemed to be waiting for the chance to roar back to life. That was when he heard it. A sound so faint he initially thought it was a trick of the mind. A murmur? A soft lullaby. Ethan froze, straining his ears. The sound was coming from below. Was there a basement? After a few minutes of searching, he found a discreet door near the pantry. Wooden steps spiraled down into the darkness. The sound grew clearer now, unmistakably a lullaby, sung in a child's voice. His heart hammered against his ribs. Children? In the basement of his abandoned restaurant? "Hello?" he called, descending the steps cautiously. "Is anyone there?" The singing stopped abruptly. Ethan heard a swift, rustling movement, as if someone was hiding. The basement was surprisingly clean and organized, a stark contrast to the state of the rest of the building. In one corner, he saw an old mattress with a few folded blankets. There was also a small collection of well-loved toys and a neat stack of children's books. "It's okay," Ethan said, his voice gentle. "I just want to help." A movement behind a battered bookcase caught his eye. Slowly, a small girl emerged from the shadows. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old, but her eyes held a maturity far beyond her years. She wore clean, though visibly worn, clothes, and her hair was carefully plaited into 2 pigtails. "Are you the new owner?" she asked, her voice surprisingly firm for someone so young. Ethan nodded, still trying to process the scene. "My name is Ethan. And you are?" "Lily," she answered, taking a step forward. Then, as if making a momentous decision, she turned and said, "You can come out. He seems nice." To Ethan's utter astonishment, 2 babies, no more than a year old, crawled out from behind the bookcase. They were identical twins, with mops of golden curls and sleepy blue eyes. "These are Owen and Ethan," Lily introduced with the gravity of a seasoned hostess. "I take care of them." Ethan felt his world tilt on its axis. A 5-year-old girl all alone, caring for 2 infants in an abandoned basement. "Lily," he began, choosing his words carefully, "where are your parents?" The girl's face shuddered for a moment. "Mommy is in heaven now. The restaurant belonged to her." "Daddy." "I never met him." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. "And you're all here by yourselves? Who looks after you?" Lily squared her shoulders, a gesture that would have been comical in any other context, but now was simply heartbreaking. "I look after us. I know how to make bottles, change diapers. Everything. The lady from the corner store sometimes brings us food. She promised not to tell anyone we live here, 'cause then they'd separate us." One of the twins, Owen or Ethan still couldn't tell, started to whimper. With astonishing efficiency, Lily produced a pre-made bottle and handed it to the baby, who took it eagerly. "You can't stay here," Ethan said, more to himself than to her. "Please," Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Don't call the police. I don't want them to take my brothers away." Something inside Ethan shattered and then reformed in that instant. His entire life, his corporate empire, all his achievements felt meaningless in the face of this tiny girl carrying the weight of the world on her small shoulders. "Lily," he knelt to meet her gaze. "What if I told you I have a big house with way too many empty rooms for just one person? A house with a kitchen full of food and bathrooms with hot water." Her eyes widened. "You mean, maybe we can help each other. You and your brothers need a safe place to stay, and he paused, the truth of his own words dawning on him. "I need a family." Lily looked at the twins, then back at Ethan, weighing his proposal with a seriousness no 5-year-old should ever possess. "Can we bring our toys?" she finally asked. A genuine smile, his first in years, spread across Ethan's face. "We can bring anything you want. And buy more." Minutes later, Ethan found himself climbing the basement stairs with a baby in each arm, while Lily followed closely behind, clutching her precious collection of books. It was insane, of course. There would be legal issues, investigations, endless complications. Ashley would probably have a coronary when she found out. But when Lily took his hand as they reached his car, when the twins snuggled sleepily against his chest, Ethan knew he had made the right decision. For the first time in his adult life, he felt something real, something vital, something no bank account could ever buy. "Ready to go home?" he asked Lily, helping her into the back seat of his Bentley, now repurposed as a family vehicle. She nodded, hugging her books. "Home," she repeated, as if testing the word. "It's been a while since we had one of those." Driving through the Chicago night with 3 children sleeping in his luxury car, Ethan Hayes, lonely billionaire, empty air, the man who had everything and nothing at all, felt his heart fill with something he didn't immediately recognize. It was purpose. It was meaning. It was the beginning of a new life. What he did not yet know was that by trying to save 3 small lives abandoned in a basement, he was, in fact, saving himself. The private elevator to the penthouse opened silently into an apartment that, until that night, Ethan Hayes had never truly considered a home. The 6,000 square feet of minimalist luxury, with its stark gray and white decor, felt even colder and more impersonal now that he was carrying 2 sleeping children in his arms. "Wow," Lily whispered, her wide eyes reflecting the city lights pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows. "It looks like those apartments in the magazines Mama used to look at." Ethan looked at his own space through her eyes and for the first time truly saw what it was missing. There were no vibrant colors, no photos on the walls, no sign that anyone actually lived here. It was a catalog of wealth, utterly devoid of warmth. "Come on," he said gently, trying not to wake the twins. "I'll show you where you'll sleep." Lily followed him down the hallway, her small footsteps echoing on the Italian marble floor. She stopped occasionally to admire some detail. A black grand piano that served only as a decorative piece, an abstract sculpture that had cost more than many family homes, a built-in aquarium housing only exotic, solitary fish. "Your apartment is pretty," she remarked upon reaching the master bedroom, "but it feels a bit sad." The observation hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. That was exactly it. Sad. How had he never realized it before? The master bedroom was equally minimalist, with a king-sized bed dressed in Egyptian cotton sheets in shades of charcoal and a panoramic view of the Chicago skyline. Ethan began to settle the twins in the center of the bed, but Lily quickly intervened. "No, no," she instructed with the authority of a seasoned babysitter. "They can roll over. We need a barrier." Ethan watched, fascinated as she methodically arranged pillows and cushions to create a safe nest for the babies. Her movements were precise and confident, as though she'd done this 100 times before, which he realized with a pang was probably true. "You're really good at this," he commented, helping her place the last pillow. Lily shrugged, but a small, proud smile flickered across her lips. "I had to learn quickly when Mommy got sick. The doctor said she needed rest, so I took care of the babies so she could sleep." Before Ethan could fully process the weight of that statement, one of the twins, he still couldn't tell which, started to stir, his face twisting into an expression Lily immediately recognized. "That's Ethan," she informed him. "He always wakes up first for a bottle." As if on cue, baby Ethan opened his eyes and started to whimper, the sound seeming absurdly loud in the silence of the apartment. Ethan felt a momentary panic. What was he supposed to do? How do you calm a crying baby? Lily, however, was already in motion. "We need to make a bottle," she declared, grabbing her worn-out backpack. "Where's your kitchen?" Ethan's kitchen was a study in stainless steel and black marble, with state-of-the-art appliances that were rarely used for anything beyond making espresso and reheating the occasional delivery meal. Lily looked around with professional interest, like a chef assessing a new workspace. "Mommy would have loved a kitchen like this," she commented, taking out a carefully stored container of powdered formula from her bag. "She always said, 'A good kitchen is the heart of a home.'" Ethan watched as she took charge of the situation with disconcerting ease, even needing a makeshift step stool, which he quickly improvised with an empty wine crate, to reach the sink. Lily moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. "First, you boil the water," she explained, like a patient teacher guiding a new student. "But you have to let it cool a bit, otherwise it burns their mouths. Mommy taught me to test it on my wrist. If it's too hot for my wrist, it's too hot for the baby." Ethan absorbed every word, acutely aware of the strange role reversal taking place. Here he was, a man who ran a corporate empire, learning the basics of childcare from a 5-year-old. Now, Lily continued, measuring the formula precisely. "It's 2 scoops for every ounce of water. You have to mix well, no lumps." As she prepared the bottle, she started sharing more about her mother, Rosemary. It was as if teaching Ethan had opened a door to her memories, and now they flowed freely. "Mommy was the best cook in the world," she declared with absolute conviction. "She could make anything taste good, even broccoli, and I used to hate broccoli." Ethan smiled, suddenly recalling his own grandmother's almost magical ability to turn simple ingredients into memorable meals. "My grandma was the same way," he found himself saying. "She made a tomato sauce that filled the entire house with its smell." Lily's eyes lit up with interest. "Mommy's sauce was like that, too. She taught me the secret was letting it simmer slowly, with love. And it always had to have fresh basil. She grew it in the backyard of the restaurant." As the night wore on, more stories emerged between bottle feedings and diaper changes, another skill Lily had astonishingly mastered. Ethan discovered the world of the family table through the eyes of a child who had grown up among its tables and pots. "We had customers who came every Sunday," Lily said, rocking Owen while Ethan dozed off contentedly. "Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Miller always ordered the special lasagna. Mommy made it with super-thin pasta she called silk dough. And Mr. Roberts, he was allergic to shrimp but loved seafood, so Mommy created a special dish just for him with fish and mussels." Ethan could visualize each scene she described, the restaurant full of life, families occupying the tables, the aroma of lovingly prepared food filling the air. It was so different from the abandoned place he'd found, yet through Lily's words, it felt more real than ever. "What was it like working in the kitchen with your mom?" he asked, genuinely interested. Lily's face lit up at the memory. "It was the best thing ever. I even had my own apron, you know, all white, with my name embroidered on it. Mommy said I was her special sous chef." She paused, adjusting Owen in her arms with the skill of a professional nanny. "I started helping with small things, washing lettuce, separating ingredients. But then Mommy taught me more. I could make the basic sauce by myself, and she was starting to teach me how to make pasta when... Her voice faltered, and Ethan felt his heart clench. Gently, he took Owen from her arms, surprised at how natural the gesture already felt. "You must miss her a lot," he said softly. Lily nodded, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. "Sometimes I wake up and for a second I forget she's gone. Then I remember. I have to be strong for the babies. Mommy made me promise I'd always take care of them." Ethan knelt in front of her, balancing Owen in one arm while using his free hand to wipe away her tears. "Lily, you've been stronger than any child should ever have to be. Now you can share some of that responsibility with me, okay?" She studied him with those ancient eyes in a young face. "Do you promise you won't separate us, that you'll let us stay together?" "I promise," Ethan answered without a flicker of hesitation, surprised by the certainty in his own voice. "You three are a family, and families should stay together." A small smile appeared on Lily's face. "Then you're our family now, too," she declared with the simple logic of children. "Because you're taking care of us." Those words hit Ethan with an unexpected force. Family. When was the last time that word had meant something real to him? His parents were alive, of course, but their relationship had long since become purely professional. Christmas was an occasion to discuss financial results. Birthdays were remembered by assistants, marked by generic cards and expensive yet impersonal gifts. The night wore on, and the first signs of exhaustion appeared on Lily's face, though she fought bravely against sleep. Ethan realized they needed to sort out the sleeping arrangements. "You can have my bed," he offered. "I'll sleep on the couch." But Lily shook her head. "I need to be near the babies. We always sleep together." She then proceeded to organize her little space on the floor beside the twins' makeshift nest, her movements methodical and efficient, speaking of months of practice. Ethan watched in awe as she turned a few blankets into a surprisingly cozy bed. "See, now I can reach both of them if they cry during the night," she explained, proud of her ingenuity. Ethan sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, simply observing as Lily finally gave in to sleep. Even in slumber, one of her hands remained outstretched toward her brother's, a silent anchor of protection. His phone vibrated again, probably Ashley still trying to figure out why he'd missed 3 important meetings today. But for the first time in his adult life, Ethan didn't feel compelled to respond right away. The corporate world, which until yesterday had been his entire universe, suddenly felt distant and less urgent. His thoughts drifted to the restaurant. Now he saw it through different eyes, not just as a potential investment, but as a place filled with memories, family, and a love for food and people. Lily's stories had given life to the empty walls and filled the abandoned space with laughter and the aromas of meals prepared with care. He remembered his own childhood, the rare occasions his grandmother managed to gather the family for Sunday lunch, the smell of homemade tomato sauce, the sound of dough being kneaded on a sturdy wooden table, the laughter around the table. When exactly had he lost that connection? To food, to family, to the simple pleasure of a shared meal. Lily shifted in her sleep, murmuring something about fresh basil. Ethan smiled, realizing it might not have been a coincidence that he found these children in that particular restaurant. Perhaps the family table was meant to be more than just another acquisition in his portfolio. In the restaurant's silent kitchen, under layers of dust and neglect, there were stories waiting to be rediscovered. In Lily's memories of her mother, there were lessons, not just about cooking, but about love, family, and purpose. And maybe, Ethan thought, he had something to learn from those lessons too. He closed his eyes, letting the comforting silence of the bedroom envelop him. Tomorrow there would be much to do. Shopping for the children, legal arrangements, endless explanations for Ashley and the board. But now, in this moment, for the first time in years, he felt at peace. His last thought before falling asleep right there, sitting on his bedroom floor, was about recipes. Maybe if Lily agreed to teach him, he could learn to make that sauce that needed to simmer slowly, with love. After all, as Rosemary had taught her daughter, sometimes the simplest ingredients, combined with care and patience, could create something extraordinary. Dawn was breaking when Lily woke briefly, seeing Ethan asleep on the floor. For a moment, she watched him with the same intensity he had watched her hours before. Then, silently, she took one of her blankets and covered him gently. "Mommy," she whispered into the silent room, "I think you'd like him. He has sad eyes, like you did sometimes. But I think we can help with that. You always said the best recipe for sadness is family, good food, and lots of love, right?" The first rays of sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the room where 4 unlikely people were beginning their journey as a family. Outside, Chicago was waking to another busy day, but inside that room, in the hush of the early morning, something extraordinary had already happened. A man who had everything but what truly mattered had found his way home through the love of 3 small orphans and the memories of an abandoned restaurant. Ethan Hayes stared at his laptop screen, trying to focus on the numbers from his latest acquisition while Owen and Ethan played on his imported Persian rug. Lily was seated at the dining table, concentrating on homework from her new school. 2 weeks had passed since the children arrived in his life, and his once minimalist apartment now looked like a colorful battlefield. Toys decorated the previously immaculate floor, children's drawings were taped to the stainless steel fridge, and the grand piano, once purely decorative, now served as a fortress for the twins' teddy bears. Even his home office had been invaded by crayons and storybooks. "Mr. Hayes," Ashley's voice echoed from the laptop, pulling him back into the reality of the video conference. "The investors are waiting for your decision on the merger." Ethan opened his mouth to answer, but was interrupted by a piercing cry. Owen had tripped while trying to take his first steps. Within seconds, Ethan was on the floor, consoling the baby. "I'm sorry," he said to the screen full of executives. "Could we reschedule for—" Owen's crying intensified, and Lily quickly joined them on the floor. "Did he hit his head?" she asked worriedly, her small hands expertly checking her brother. "Ashley, we'll have to continue this tomorrow," Ethan decided, closing the laptop without waiting for a response. A few weeks ago, the idea of interrupting an important meeting would have been unthinkable. Now it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "It's okay, champ," he murmured to Owen, who was already calming down in his arms. "You'll get it next time." Lily smiled as she watched. "You're getting good at this," she said. "You used to take longer to calm them down." Ethan felt a wave of pride at the compliment. It was true. He was learning. The sleepless nights, the clumsy diaper changes, the perfectly prepared bottles. All of it now felt as normal as the board meetings and business dinners once had. His phone buzzed, another urgent email from Ashley. Ethan ignored it, preferring to watch Ethan, who was now attempting his own hesitant steps, inspired by his brother. "You know," Lily said thoughtfully, helping baby Ethan balance, "Mommy always said sometimes the best things in life happen when we least expect them." Ethan looked at her, surprised by the depth of her statement. Your mother seemed like a very wise woman. She was, Lily confirmed, her gaze momentarily distant. Then, as if making a big decision, she added, "I think she'd be happy knowing you're taking care of us now." "Dad?" The world stopped. Ethan froze, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. What did you call me?" Lily bit her lip, suddenly unsure. "Sorry, I shouldn't have—" "No," Ethan interrupted quickly, his voice shaking. "Don't apologize. You caught me by surprise." She studied him with those old eyes in a young face. "It's just, you act like a dad, a real dad. You play with the twins, help me with homework, make food for us. Even though you're still not very good at cooking," she added with a small smile. Ethan laughed through the tears he hadn't realized he was shedding. It was true. His attempts in the kitchen were, at best, interesting, but he was learning, just like he was learning everything else about being a father. "Lily," he began, choosing his words carefully, "I would be honored to be your dad, for all three of you, if that's what you want." In response, Lily threw her arms around him, nearly knocking Owen over in the process. "I do want that," she whispered into his chest. "So much." At that moment, as if sensing the importance of what was happening, the twins joined the hug, their baby laughs filling the apartment that had once been so silent. The phone buzzed again, but Ethan barely noticed. Sitting on the floor of his luxury apartment, holding 3 children who had completely changed his life, he finally understood what it meant to be truly rich. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Ethan allowed himself a moment of reflection. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind of emotions and adaptations. His wardrobe of designer suits now shared space with clothes stained by baby food. His meetings were often interrupted by crying or laughter. His time was split between financial reports and bedtime stories. And he had never been happier. Ashley had suggested hiring a full-time nanny, arguing it would be more efficient for his business, but Ethan refused. He wanted to be there for every moment, every first time, every little milestone. The business could wait, his family could not. Family. The word still surprised him sometimes. How had 3 orphans found in a restaurant basement become so essential to his existence so quickly? A soft noise pulled him from his thoughts. Lily stood at the bedroom door, clutching her favorite teddy bear. "Can't sleep?" he asked gently. She shook her head, stepping inside. "I had a dream about Mommy," she said, climbing onto the bed next to him. She was smiling. Ethan hugged her, feeling his heart tighten. "Do you want to tell me about it?" "We were in the restaurant," Lily began, snuggling against him. "She was cooking, and you were there too, learning to make her special sauce. She said she was happy, because now we have you to take care of us." Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. "I promise I'll always take care of you," he whispered. "Always." Lily smiled sleepily. "I know, Dad. I know." And there, with Lily falling asleep in his arms, Ethan Hayes, the relentless CEO, the lonely billionaire, the man who once put business above everything, realized he had finally found his true purpose in life. It wasn't in million-dollar contracts or corporate acquisitions. It was in the sleepy smiles of the twins, in bedtime stories, in the small daily victories of learning to be a father. It was in the way Lily looked at him with absolute trust, in how the twins ran to him when he got home, in the way she said Dad with so much love and certainty. The sun was rising over Chicago, painting the sky with pinkish hues. In a few hours, the twins would wake up, demanding their bottles. Lily would need help with more homework, and his phone would keep ringing with work demands. But Ethan now knew exactly where his priorities lay. Because sometimes the best things in life really do happen when we least expect them. And sometimes the love of a family is all we need to feel complete. The aroma of tomato sauce filled the apartment's kitchen, mingling with Lily's laughter and the babbling of the twins. Ethan watched, amazed, as his little 5-year-old chef patiently explained the steps of the recipe. "No, Dad," she laughed, placing her hand over his on the wooden spoon. "You have to stir with love, remember? Mommy always said restaurant food never tastes the same as homemade food. It's missing the love." Ethan grinned, adjusting his technique according to her directions. It was Saturday afternoon, and his kitchen, previously pristine and barely used, now looked like a colorful battlefield. Sauce splatters stained the apron Lily insisted he wear, and there was flour even in his usually immaculate hair. "You know," he remarked as Lily supervised his stirring of the sauce, "maybe it's time for us to take a look at the restaurant, see what needs to be done to reopen it." Lily's eyes shone. "Really? We can make it like it was before, with checkered tablecloths and pictures on the walls?" "Sure," Ethan replied, surprised by his own enthusiasm. "Actually, I was thinking of going there tomorrow. What do you think?" Before Lily could answer, the doorbell rang. Ethan frowned. He wasn't expecting visitors. Lily quickly grabbed the twins, who were playing in their makeshift playpen in the kitchen, instinctively slipping into protective big sister mode. When Ethan opened the door, his heart momentarily froze. Walter Hayes, his father, stood in the hallway, his imposing figure softened only by the uncertain expression on his face. "Dad," Ethan managed to say, aware of the sauce on his apron and the flour in his hair. Walter cleared his throat, uncomfortable. "Ashley told me about the children and about the restaurant." Before Ethan could reply, Lily appeared at his side, still holding the twins. "Hi," she greeted with her usual confidence. "Are you Dad's dad?" Walter Hayes's gaze softened visibly upon seeing the children. "Yes, I am, and you must be Lily." "Come in, Dad," Ethan heard himself say, surprising even himself. "We were making tomato sauce." The scene that followed was surreal. Walter Hayes, the feared business magnate, sat in a messy kitchen, watching his granddaughter teach his son to cook. The twins, unimpressed by their grandfather's reputation, quickly adopted him as their new favorite toy. "Remember when Grandma used to make sauce like this?" Walter commented softly after a few minutes of silence. "On Sundays." Ethan stopped stirring the sauce, memories long buried surfacing. "I remember. You were always late coming from work, but she'd wait to serve until you arrived. And you would sit on the counter, just like she's doing now." Walter nodded toward Lily, who was watching them both curiously. "Always wanting to help." Ethan didn't answer immediately, letting the memory sink in. When was the last time he and his father had discussed anything besides work? "Did Grandma make sauce too?" Lily asked, breaking the tension. "Like Mommy?" Walter smiled, a genuine smile Ethan hadn't seen in years. Yes, she was Italian. She said the secret was cooking with love. "Just like Mommy used to say," Lily finished enthusiastically. The rest of the afternoon flowed in a surprisingly natural way. Walter shared stories about Ethan's grandmother, about the Sunday family gatherings that became rarer as the business grew. Lily, in turn, told him about her mother and the restaurant. "You know, son," Walter said, helping Ethan tidy the kitchen after Lily took the twins for their bath. "When you said you wanted to buy an abandoned restaurant, I thought it was just another investment. But now—" "I get it." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Get what?" "That maybe you're fulfilling the dream I never had the courage to pursue," his father answered, surprising him. "Your grandmother always wanted to open a restaurant. I chose the safe path of business, and little by little we lost something important along the way." Ethan really looked at his father then, truly seeing him for perhaps the first time in years, not the successful businessman, but a man who might also have had long-forgotten dreams. "It's never too late to start over, Dad," he said softly. "Lily teaches me that every day." Walter smiled, a smile so similar to Lily's when she spoke of her mother. "You know what else she's teaching you? How to be a better father than I was." "Dad." "It's true, son, and I'm proud of you for it." Just then, Lily re-entered the kitchen with the twins, both now clean and in pajamas. "Grandpa," she said naturally, as if Walter had always been part of their lives, "do you want to stay for dinner? We made too much sauce anyway." The look father and son exchanged spoke more than 1,000 words. "I'd love to," Walter replied, his voice husky. Later, after his father left and the children were sleeping, Ethan stood on the balcony of his penthouse looking out over the glowing city. The family table wouldn't just be another business in his portfolio. It would be a legacy, not just for Lily and the twins, but for that little boy who once dreamed of cooking like his grandmother. His phone vibrated with a message from his father. "How about a family lunch on Sunday? Your mother is eager to meet her grandchildren." Ethan smiled, realizing his real dream had never been just to own a restaurant. It was to have a family. And in some magical way, now he had both. The night wind carried the lingering aroma of tomato sauce, and Ethan could have sworn he felt the smiles of two women, his grandmother and Rosemary, blessing this new beginning. Because sometimes the most beautiful dreams are those that lie dormant in our hearts, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The knock on the door came on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, while Ethan was trying to convince Owen to eat his vegetable puree. Lily was at school, part of the routine they'd established in recent weeks, and baby Ethan was sleeping soundly in his new crib. Mr. Hayes, a serious female voice, greeted him as soon as he opened the door. "I'm Mariana Albright from Child Protective Services, and this is Dr. Robert Evans from the Family Court. May we come in?" Ethan's heart froze. He knew this moment would come. It was impossible to hide 3 children forever, especially after enrolling Lily in school. Still, the reality of it hit him like a punch in the gut. "Sure," he replied, keeping his voice calm as he invited them into the living room. "Sorry about the mess. I was in the middle of lunch with Owen." The social worker surveyed the room with analytical eyes. Toys organized in colorful baskets, recent photos of the children on the walls, Lily's drawings proudly displayed on the stainless steel fridge. The apartment that once resembled a design showroom had clearly transformed into a home. "Mr. Hayes," Dr. Evans began, adjusting his glasses, "we received a report about 3 minors living under your care without proper legal guardianship. Could you explain the situation?" Ethan took a deep breath, settling Owen in his arms. The baby, oblivious to the tension, was happily playing with his tie. "I found the children in the basement of the restaurant I bought," he began, opting for complete honesty. Lily, the oldest, had been taking care of her brothers alone since their mother died. I couldn't just ignore their situation. "And why didn't you inform the authorities right away?" Mariana asked, taking notes on her clipboard. "Lily was afraid they'd separate the siblings," Ethan said, his voice quivering slightly. "And then, well, they became my family." Dr. Evans frowned. "I understand your concern, Mr. Hayes, but there are legal procedures that must be followed. You essentially took 3 children without proper authorization." "Took them?" A small but firm voice sounded from the door. Lily was there, still with her school backpack, her normally sweet eyes now flashing with indignation. "Dad saved us." "Lily!" Ethan stood up, surprised. "You're supposed to be in school for 2 more hours. What are you doing home so early?" "I had a feeling," she replied, walking into the living room with the dignity of a little queen. "And the teacher let me leave since I finished all my work." Mariana's expression softened as she addressed the girl. "Hello, Lily. Can we talk for a moment?" Lily nodded, sitting next to Ethan and taking his hand. "Ask whatever you want. But first, I want to say one thing. Dad is the best thing that's happened to us since Mommy went to heaven." For an hour, Lily answered every question with a maturity that surprised even Ethan. She spoke of her mother's illness, how she learned to care for the twins, the months they'd spent alone in the restaurant's basement. "And how is it living with Mr. Hayes?" Mariana asked. "He's our dad now," Lily corrected gently. "At first he didn't know how to do much, not even how to make a baby bottle," she laughed, making Ethan blush. "But he learned it all. He cooks for us, reads us bedtime stories, helps me with homework." "And his work?" Dr. Evans interjected. "It must be difficult to juggle a demanding job with 3 small children." "He works a lot," Lily admitted, "but he's always home for dinner with us. And when he has an important meeting, he sets up his computer on the kitchen table so he can still be close to us while he works." Ethan felt tears welling in his eyes. How could this tiny child be so observant, so articulate? "Mr. Hayes," Mariana turned to him, "you understand we'll need to open a formal guardianship proceeding, right? There will be regular home visits, evaluations, reports." "I'll do whatever it takes," Ethan interrupted, his voice resolute. "I'll hire the best lawyers, submit to any evaluation, follow every procedure. But I'm not giving up on my kids." Lily squeezed his hand, and Owen chose that moment to giggle loudly, breaking the tension in the room. "Dad," Lily whispered, "show them the twins' room and my school notebook and the pictures from Sunday lunch at Grandpa's house." For another 2 hours, Ethan and Lily showed the visitors around the apartment, displaying evidence of their family life. The twins' bedroom decorated with a safari theme, Lily's study area with neatly organized schoolwork, recent photos with the grandparents showing a loving, extended family. When they finally left, Mariana and Dr. Evans left a stack of paperwork and a list of procedures to follow, but also a hint of hope. "Lily is an extraordinary child," Mariana commented before leaving. "And it's clear there's a bond between you. It won't be an easy process, Mr. Hayes, but we'll work to keep this family together." After the door closed, Lily threw herself into Ethan's arms, finally letting her mature facade slip. "They won't take us away, right, Dad?" Ethan hugged her tightly, feeling her small body tremble. "No, Princess, they won't. I promise I'll fight with everything I have to keep our family together." "I know," she whispered against his chest, "because you're our real dad now, not on paper, but in our hearts. And that's what matters, right?" That night, after the children were asleep, Ethan stayed up reading the documents the authorities had left. Court proceedings, psychological evaluations, supervised visits. The path would be long and complicated. But when he looked into the room where his children slept, because that's what they were now, his children, he knew he would face any battle. Because sometimes families aren't made by blood or paper, but by choice and love. And he had chosen to love these 3 children the moment he found them in that dark basement. Now he just needed to show the world that sometimes the strongest bonds are the ones the heart chooses to create. The family table was unrecognizable. The windows, now clean, let in the sunlight that played on the dust motes, stirred up by the renovation work. Workers came and went, carrying supplies and tools, while Ethan and Lily supervised every detail of the transformation. "This is where Grandma Maria's table used to be," Lily explained, pointing to a specific corner of the dining room. "She came every Sunday and always brought me coffee candies." Ethan made a mental note, already picturing a discreet plaque marking that spot, Grandma Maria's table. Preserving these memories was important, building a bridge between the past and the future they were creating. "What about wall colors?" he asked, watching Lily examine paint samples with the seriousness of a professional decorator. "Which do you think your mom would have chosen?" Lily tilted her head thoughtfully. "Mommy always said a restaurant should be as cozy as a hug. She'd like this soft yellow that looks like sunlight." In the center of the dining area, Owen and Ethan played in their makeshift playpen, shielded from the dust and chaos of the renovation. The twins, nearly 2 years old now, were growing more active and curious each day. "Dad!" Lily called suddenly, excited. "Look at Owen!" Ethan turned just in time to see Owen pulling himself up on the playpen rail and taking his first tentative steps. Pride and emotion swelled within him as he filmed the moment on his phone. "That's it, champ," he encouraged, watching the little boy determinedly walk toward a toy. Not to be outdone, baby Ethan soon followed his brother's example, prompting excited cheers from Lily. "They're walking! Both of them!" Ethan put his phone away, strangely overwhelmed. It was as if the twins' first steps symbolized something bigger, the progress of their entire family, the start of a new phase. "You know," he said, picking up the 2 babies while Lily danced around them, "this restaurant is growing along with you." It was true. Every day the family table gained more life. The industrial kitchen was being fully modernized, but Ethan insisted on keeping some original features, like the old pizza oven Lily claimed made the best margaritas in town. "Dad," Lily called, more serious now, holding a notebook decorated with food stickers. "I made a list of dishes that must be on the menu." Ethan smiled, placing the twins back in their playpen and sitting with her at one of the new tables. "Tell me everything." "First, Mommy's gnocchi," she began, consulting her carefully handwritten notes. It has to be exactly how she made it, with fresh tomato sauce and basil from the garden." "From the garden?" Ethan asked, surprised. Lily nodded firmly. "Yes, we need to have an herb garden like she used to have." "It'll go out back," she said, pointing to the outdoor area Ethan had planned to convert into a parking lot. He immediately took out his own notebook and changed his plans. The parking space could be smaller. A garden of fresh herbs was far more important. What else is on the list? For an hour, Lily described every special dish her mother used to prepare. Ethan was impressed by her precise memory of ingredients and techniques. It was as though Rosemary had left a living culinary legacy through her daughter. And here, she pointed to a colorful drawing at the end of the notebook, is how the walls should be decorated, with pictures of happy families just like before. Ethan studied the drawing, a surprisingly detailed depiction of the dining area, with frames on the walls and smiling people at the tables. In one corner, she had drawn the four of them, Ethan, herself, and the twins. "It's perfect," he said, feeling a lump in his throat. "But I think we need to add a few more people to this drawing." Lily tilted her head, curious. "Who?" "Grandpa Walter and Grandma Helena, for starters," he said. "And maybe we should put a picture of your mom in a special place, so she'll always be part of the restaurant." Lily's eyes filled with unshed tears, but her smile was radiant. "She already is, Dad. She's in every recipe, in every memory. And now she's also in the love you put into everything you do here." Ethan hugged his daughter, marveling at her wisdom. In the playpen, the twins continued their toddling adventures, each step more certain than the last. The sound of their laughter mixed with the renovation noise, creating a symphony of progress and joy. The restaurant's transformation was more than just a renovation. It was the building of a shared dream, a legacy blending past and present, Rosemary's memories with the new stories they were creating. That night, after tucking the children into bed, Ethan returned to the restaurant alone. In the silence of the partially renovated space, he could almost hear echoes of past laughter mingling with the new. He imagined future evenings with a full house, Lily helping in the kitchen, the twins running between tables, families forging special memories here. On a newly painted wall in that soft, sun-like yellow, Ethan hung the first frame, a photo of Rosemary that Lily treasured. In it, she smiled radiantly, wearing a white apron in the restaurant's kitchen. "We're taking good care of your legacy," he whispered to the photo, "and your precious ones too." As if in response, a gentle breeze drifted through the open window, carrying the aroma of basil Lily had insisted on planting earlier that afternoon in a few makeshift pots. It was just the beginning of the herb garden she envisioned, but it was already a promise of the future. Ethan smiled, thinking of how life takes curious turns. Months ago, he was a lonely man buying an abandoned restaurant on a whim. Now he was a father of three, transforming not just the physical space of the family table, but also his own heart. The twins' first steps that afternoon were only the beginning. As a family, they were all learning to walk together, sometimes stumbling, but always getting back up, always moving forward. And the restaurant, with its freshly painted walls and carefully preserved memories, would be the perfect backdrop for all the stories yet to unfold. Because in the end, that was what the family table was all about. Not just food, but love, family, and the precious moments that turn a simple restaurant into a magical place where memories are made and preserved, where past and present meet in harmony, and where an unlikely family found its place in the world. It started with a cough. Ethan barely noticed at first. Kids catch colds all the time, Lily had explained with her premature wisdom. But when Owen woke in the middle of the night, burning with fever and struggling to breathe, Ethan's world collapsed. "Lily!" he called, panic in his voice as he held Owen in his arms. "His fever's not going down." Lily appeared at the bedroom door, rubbing sleepy eyes. One look at her brother, and she sprang into action. "Hospital," she said firmly. "Now. I'll take care of Ethan. You take Owen." Ethan hesitated for a split second, his heart torn between his children. "But, Dad," Lily cut him off, her small voice carrying surprising strength. "Owen needs you now. I've taken care of them alone before, remember? I can manage Ethan for a few hours." In that moment, looking at his 5-year-old daughter, who seemed to have aged decades in seconds, Ethan felt a mix of pride and pain so intense it almost suffocated him. "I'll call Grandpa to come stay with you," he said, already dialing as he cradled Owen's feverish little body against his chest. The drive to the hospital was a blur of city lights and silent prayers. Owen alternated between crying and drowsiness, his breathing increasingly labored. Ethan had never felt so helpless. In the pediatric ER, the hours dragged on like decades. "Pneumonia," the doctor said, "severe enough to require admission." Ethan stood by, paralyzed, as they attached monitors and tubes to his tiny son. "Mr. Hayes," a nurse gently touched his arm. "I need the patient's information." Ethan blinked, trying to focus. His phone buzzed incessantly in his pocket. Texts from Lily asking for updates, from his father confirming he was with the kids, from Ashley trying to reschedule important meetings. "Owen Hayes," he started, then stopped. He realized he didn't know his son's exact date of birth. What kind of father didn't know something so basic? Guilt washed over him like a wave. He'd been so focused on being a provider, on renovating the restaurant, on proving to the authorities he could be a good dad. Had he missed the signs? Should he have noticed Owen was falling ill sooner? His phone buzzed again, another message from Lily. "Dad, take a deep breath. Remember what Mommy always said? Family love heals everything. Owen is strong. You are too." The simple words of his daughter struck Ethan like a beam of light in the darkness. He took a deep breath, finally letting the tears he hadn't realized he was holding fall. Night turned into day, and day into another night. Ethan stayed by Owen's side, watching every breath, every movement. The doctors spoke of slow but steady progress. The fever was subsiding, breathing improving gradually. Lily visited every afternoon after school, always bringing new drawings to decorate Owen's hospital room. She told him stories about the restaurant, about how his brother missed him, about the plans they had for when he came back home. "You know, Dad," she said on one of those visits, methodically arranging the drawings on the wall, "when I was little and got sick, Mommy always said worrying doesn't cure anyone. What cures is love, care, and chicken soup." Ethan smiled weakly, marveling at how strong his daughter was. "Your mom always seemed to know what to say." "Just like you," Lily replied simply. "You always know what we need too. You just forget to take care of yourself sometimes." The perceptive comment caught him off guard. It was true. He hadn't looked in a mirror in days, had barely eaten. He was functioning on autopilot. "When did you get so wise?" he asked, pulling her into a hug. "I learned from you," she said, snuggling against him. "You taught me that being strong doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what needs to be done, even when you are scared." That night, after Lily left with her grandpa, Ethan watched Owen sleep, his tiny child so fragile and yet so resilient. The tubes had been removed, and his breathing, though not perfect, was much better. "You know, son," he whispered, holding Owen's little hand, "before I met you, I thought I knew everything about success. I had money, power, respect in the business world. But you guys, you taught me what really matters." Owen shifted in his sleep, his tiny fingers tightening around Ethan's hand. Ethan continued, "You taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to keep going despite it. That strength doesn't come from how much you can control, but how much you can love. And most of all, you taught me that family isn't something you have, it's something you build day by day, with love and patience." The next morning, Owen opened his eyes and for the first time in days, smiled. A small, tired smile, but for Ethan, it was like watching the sunrise after the longest night. "Dada," Owen called, his voice hoarse but clear. Ethan felt his heart expand in his chest. "I'm here, son. I'll always be here." When Lily arrived for her daily visit, she found father and son asleep together. Ethan awkwardly bent over in the hospital chair, Owen's tiny hand clutching his father's finger. Quietly, she took out her sketchbook and began to draw the scene. "Mommy," she whispered as she sketched, "I think you'd be proud. Dad still gets lost sometimes, but he loves us as much as you did. And now he knows he doesn't have to be perfect. He just has to be here." Outside the hospital, Chicago carried on in its frenetic pace. Meetings were held without Ethan, important decisions were postponed, the restaurant renovation waited. But in that hospital room, the true priorities had become clear. Because sometimes you have to almost lose something precious to understand its true value. And Ethan Hayes, the man who once measured success by numbers and acquisitions, now measured it by smiles, hugs, and the small daily victories, like a sick child's first night of peaceful sleep, the quiet support of a wise beyond her years daughter, and the growing certainty that no challenge was too big when you had enough love to face it. Dawn painted the Chicago sky with pink and orange hues when Ethan unlocked the doors of the family table. The scent of fresh paint mingled with the smell of newly brewed coffee, a ritual he had established since Owen returned from the hospital. Every morning before the renovation began, Ethan brought the kids to check the progress, turning what could have been just another construction site into a family tradition. "Dad, look!" Lily exclaimed, running toward the newly built area designed especially for the children. The walls of the memory corner are already painted. The memory corner, as Lily had dubbed it, was a cozy nook near the kitchen where Ethan planned to create a safe space for the twins to play while he and Lily worked in the restaurant. But it was more than that, a tribute to their story, with an entire wall dedicated to photos and keepsakes. "How about we hang Mommy's first photo of the restaurant here?" Ethan suggested, watching Lily survey the freshly painted wall with a critical eye. "No," she replied after a moment of thought. "I think we should hang our first photo together, from the day you found us here. Mommy's photo should go up there." She pointed to the space above the bar, where everyone can see her smiling and looking after her. Ethan felt his heart clench. Even in the smallest details, Lily showed a deep understanding of family and belonging. The twins, now fully recovered, explored the space with the curiosity of almost 2-year-olds. Owen, still a bit cautious since his illness, followed Ethan closely as they investigated every corner of the half-finished restaurant. "Watch the stairs," Lily admonished automatically, her protective instinct always on alert. But then she stopped, looking at Ethan with a timid smile. "Sorry, Dad. Sometimes I forget I don't have to be the grown-up anymore." Ethan knelt down to her level. "Hey, you never need to apologize for caring about your brothers. But now we can take care of them together, okay?" She nodded, but Ethan noticed a shadow pass over her face. In recent days, since Owen's recovery, he'd noticed subtle changes in her behavior, moments of irritability, slight defiance, small challenges to his authority. "How about you help me decide where to put the tables?" he suggested, trying to distract her. "You know better than anyone how they used to be arranged." Her face lit up for a moment, but then the shadow returned. "What if we do it wrong? What if it doesn't end up like it was before?" "Lily," Ethan began gently, "it doesn't need to be exactly the same. We can create something new, something ours, while keeping the best memories of the past." She considered his words, fiddling with the hem of her shirt, a gesture Ethan recognized as a sign of anxiety. But what if? She hesitated, her voice small. What if Mommy wouldn't like the changes? Ah, that was it. Ethan finally understood what was behind Lily's recent behavior. The restaurant renovation was making the idea of moving on too real, of creating something new, and with it, the fear of betraying her mother's memory. "Come here," he said, sitting on one of the steps and pulling her onto his lap. "You know what I think your mom would have loved more than anything?" Lily shook her head, nestling against his chest. "To see you happy. To see this place full of life again. To know her recipes would continue bringing joy to people, but now with our special touch, too. Our special touch? She asked, curiosity piqued. Yep. Like that amazing idea you had for a kid's menu with fun names. Or the herb garden we're planting outside, even bigger than the original. They're changes, but good ones, that keep the spirit of what your mom created alive. Just then, laughter echoed through the space. Owen and Ethan had discovered the echo their voices made in the empty dining area and were trying out different sounds. Da-da, Owen suddenly shouted, his voice resonating clearly. Ethan and Lily froze. Da-da, baby Ethan repeated, not to be outdone. Dad! Lily tugged at his arm, excited. They said it. They called you. Ethan could barely believe it. His heart felt like it might burst from joy. The twins, realizing the reaction they had provoked, started chanting da-da repeatedly, interspersed with giggles. See, Lily commented, eyes shining. Even they know you're our real dad now. The morning went on with a renewed energy. Lily, her mood vastly improved, enthusiastically shared her ideas for the restaurant, each suggestion balancing memory and innovation perfectly. Keeping the checkered tablecloths, but adding a modern flair with fresh flowers. Preserving Rosemary's classic dishes, but creating new recipes inspired by them. And here, she explained, sketching in her notebook, we can have a wall with photos of customers, just like Mommy did, but also with new pictures of the families who come now. Ethan watched in awe as his daughter struck the perfect balance between honoring the past and embracing the future, a lesson he himself was still learning. The twins continued roaming around, now occasionally calling Dada whenever they wanted his attention. Each time the word echoed in the restaurant, Ethan felt his heart expand a little more. You know, Lily said thoughtfully, while helping organize some new plates that had arrived, I think I understand now why Mommy loved this place so much. Why is that? Ethan asked, genuinely curious. Because it's not just a restaurant. It's our home, she said simply. It's where our family began, where you found us, and where we'll make other families happy, too. Ethan had to fight back tears. How could this small child articulate such profound feelings so clearly? The rest of the day was a blur of activity. Ethan alternated between supervising the renovation, playing with the twins, and helping Lily with her restaurant ideas. At some point, his father arrived with lunch, and they had an impromptu picnic in the middle of the partially finished dining area. It's looking amazing, son, Walter commented, taking in the progress. Rosemary would be proud. It's not just my doing, Ethan replied, watching Lily teach the twins to say Grandpa. They taught me what really matters in a home. As the sun began to set, bathing the restaurant in golden light through the new windows, Ethan realized Lily was right. The family table wasn't just a business project or a way to honor Rosemary's memory. It was the place where his family started, where a lonely man found his purpose, where 3 orphaned children found a new dad, and where together they were building something bigger than themselves. Watching Lily doze off on the new office couch, the twins already sound asleep in their makeshift playpen, Ethan reflected on how much his life had changed. Once, success was measured in numbers and acquisitions. Now it was measured in smiles, hugs, and small daily triumphs. These children had taught him that unconditional love wasn't something you decided to feel. It was something that happened to you, completely transforming you, making you want to be a better person every day. It was getting up at night to check if Owen was breathing okay, having patience when Lily tested boundaries, celebrating every new word from the twins as if it were the biggest achievement in the world. His phone vibrated in his pocket, another email about an important meeting, but for the first time, Ethan felt no urgency to respond. Here, in this half-renovated restaurant, with his 3 kids sleeping peacefully, he was exactly where he needed to be. Because sometimes a home isn't made of walls and furniture. It's made of memories and dreams, of conquered challenges and shared love. It's made of small moments like this, when the sun sets after a day's work, and you realize you've built not just a physical space, but a place where hearts can grow and souls can heal. The family table was becoming much more than a reopened restaurant. It was a living testament to how love can change lives, how families can be formed in the most unexpected places, and how sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised as challenges. Ethan carefully lifted Lily into his arms, trying not to wake her. "Ready to go home?" he whispered. "We are home, Dad," she murmured sleepily. "This is our home, too." And it was true. Because a home, Ethan had learned, isn't just where you live. It's where your heart finds peace, where your soul finds purpose, and where love can turn even the simplest space into something magical and special. That was what the family table was becoming. Not just a renovated restaurant, but a living symbol of how love can build bridges between the past and the future, between old memories and new dreams, between lonely hearts that find each other and create something extraordinary together. The rain fell softly over Chicago that Wednesday afternoon, creating a gentle rhythm against the newly installed windows of the family table. Ethan Hayes was alone in the restaurant, taking advantage of a few hours of silence while Lily was at school and the twins were napping under Ashley's watchful eye. The old office was the last area to be organized before the next phase of the renovation. Piles of yellow documents cluttered the sturdy wooden desk that Ethan discovered had been custom-built by Rosemary's father decades earlier. He was sorting through old contracts when a folder slipped from behind a metal file cabinet. As it fell, an envelope tumbled out, bearing the elegant handwriting Ethan recognized from Rosemary's recipe notebooks, her signature clear and sure, like Lily had described. Carefully, almost reverently, Ethan opened the envelope. The official paper still felt crisp, as though it had been waiting for this moment. His eyes scanned the text, each word striking him like a physical blow. "I, Rosemary Bennett, being of sound mind, hereby leave the restaurant, the family table, and all belongings associated with it, to my children, Lily, Owen, and Ethan Bennett." The world seemed to stop. Ethan read the document multiple times, each reading revealing more details that made his heart clench. Rosemary had filed this will only 2 weeks before passing away. She named not just the restaurant, but all its recipes, the commercial name, even the old furniture he'd carefully stored during renovation. His hands trembled as he picked up the phone. The agent who brokered the sale was still in his contacts. "Mr. Oliva, Ethan Hayes here. I need to know exactly how the sale of the family table was conducted." The conversation that followed revealed a web of deceit and omissions. Rosemary's cousins, who sold the restaurant, claimed to be the only heirs. The will had never been presented during the probate process. "But we did all the legal checks," the agent protested. "There was no record of the will anywhere." "Because it was hidden here," Ethan murmured, more to himself than to the agent. "Someone didn't want it found." After hanging up, Ethan stood motionless, letting the events of the past months flood his mind. He recalled the first time he saw the restaurant from his office window, the night he discovered the children in the basement, every moment leading up to this. His eyes roamed around the renovated office. The walls, now painted a soft green Lily had chosen, were lined with old photos of the restaurant they'd unearthed during cleanup. In one, a very pregnant Rosemary beamed proudly, a toddler Lily by her side in the kitchen. The sound of small footsteps in the corridor startled him from his thoughts. Lily stood at the door, still in her school uniform, watching him with that intensity that sometimes scared him. "Dad," she asked softly, "you're crying?" Ethan hadn't realized tears were streaming down his face. He tried to hide the document, but something in Lily's gaze made him pause. "That's Mommy's handwriting," she said, coming closer. "I recognize it. She did those pretty loops on the R." Ethan looked at his daughter, because that's who Lily was now, his daughter in every sense but legally, and felt his heart break. How could he keep this from her? How could they keep building a family on a lie, even if it was by omission? "Come here, Princess," he said, pulling out a chair. "We need to talk about something important I found." Lily sat, her legs swinging above the floor. Ethan noticed she clutched her backpack a little tighter, her telltale sign of anxiety. Gently, he explained what the document meant, translating the legal language into terms a 5-year-old could grasp. Lily listened intently, her eyes never leaving his face. "So the restaurant belongs to us?" she asked after a long silence. "Yes, legally it belongs to you and your brothers." To Ethan's surprise, Lily smiled. "Mommy always said the family table was magical," she said, "that it had a way of bringing the right people together at the right time." "What do you mean?" "She met my real dad here," Lily explained. "He was a customer, and you found us here too." She paused, fiddling with the edge of her skirt. "But you're more of a dad than he ever was. He left when he found out about the twins. You stayed." Ethan felt his heart constrict. It was the first time Lily had mentioned her biological father. "Mommy wasn't sad when she talked about him," Lily went on. "She said some people come into our lives just to bring gifts, like my brothers, and others come to stay, like you." At that moment, the office door opened again. It was Mrs. Peterson, the lady from the corner bakery who had helped the children during those months on their own. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, "but I heard voices and—" "Oh. The will?" Ethan stood abruptly. "You knew about it?" Mrs. Peterson entered, closing the door gently behind her. Her usually cheerful face looked somber. "Rosemary showed it to me in her last week," she explained, taking a seat. "She was so weak, but insisted on telling me everything. She said her cousins were pressuring her to sell, but she wanted to make sure it stayed with the kids." "Why didn't you bring the document forward when she passed?" Ethan asked, trying to keep the accusation out of his tone. "I searched for days," Mrs. Peterson said, tears gathering in her eyes. "Rosemary told me it was in a safe place in the office, but when I came to look, it was gone. The cousins showed up the day after the funeral with the sale paperwork. There was nothing I could do but look after the children the best I could." Lily, who had been silent, suddenly jumped up from the chair. "Wait here," she cried, darting out of the office. She returned minutes later, dragging her old school backpack. "Remember you asked me once why I still carry my old backpack when you bought me a new one?" she asked Ethan. "This is why." Carefully, Lily opened a hidden pocket sewn into the bottom of the bag. From it, she pulled out an envelope identical to the one Ethan had found. "Mommy gave me 2 copies," she explained. "She told me to keep it safe. I couldn't really read when she gave it to me, but I knew it was important." Ethan and Mrs. Peterson exchanged shocked looks. Rosemary hadn't left anything to chance. She had made 2 copies, ensuring at least one would survive. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Ethan asked gently. Lily bit her lip. "At first I didn't know what it was. Then I got scared." "Scared of what, Princess?" "That if you found out the restaurant belonged to us, you wouldn't want to be our dad anymore," she admitted in a small voice. "That you'd think we just wanted your money." Ethan felt as though someone had punched him in the gut. He pulled Lily into his arms, hugging her tightly. "Never," he said firmly. "Never think that. You're my children, no matter who owns the restaurant or anything else." In the days that followed, news of the discovered will spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. But instead of the scandal Ethan feared, he found support. Mr. Johnson, the old maitre d', was the first to show up, carrying a photo album from the restaurant's glory days. Rosemary had a gift, he said, showing the pictures to Ethan and Lily. Not just for cooking, but for people. She always knew exactly what each customer needed, even when they didn't know themselves. The photos depicted a vibrant, lively restaurant. In one, Rosemary taught a very young Lily how to make dough. In another, she stood pregnant with the twins, surrounded by customers who felt more like friends. A retired teacher who used to have lunch at the restaurant every day brought her own memories. "Rosemary served me vegetable soup for a whole month when I lost my husband," she recounted, teary-eyed. She said, "Good food heals the soul." And you know what? She was right. One by one, neighbors and former customers began to appear, each with a story to share, a memory to revisit. The family table, they said, was never just a restaurant. It was a gathering place, a source of comfort, a piece of the neighborhood's heart. And now, Mrs. Peterson declared during one of the impromptu meetings that began to happen daily, "It's becoming exactly that again, thanks to you, Ethan." The box for written testimonials she placed at the entrance was overflowing with letters of support. Ashley, who initially questioned the wisdom of revealing the will, now coordinated a social media campaign that was touching hearts all over the city. Amidst all this, Ethan found another treasure in the original envelope, an unopened letter from Rosemary. "To whoever finds this will, if you are reading this, it means I'm no longer here to care for my children. The family table belongs to them by right, not just legally, but because this place holds the essence of our family. Lily, my little chef, was practically born within these walls. Her first steps were taken in this kitchen. Her first words were, 'More dough.' She has the gift, not just for cooking, but for caring about others, for seeing beyond what's on the surface. Owen and Ethan, my angels I barely got to know, yet love with all my heart, are also part of this story. I spent my pregnancy here, talking to them while I cooked, dreaming of the day they'd run around the tables. Yes, the restaurant is theirs. But more important than walls or furniture is the love this place represents. If you're reading this, I hope you're someone who understands that sometimes the greatest treasures aren't those we can possess, but those we can love. I ask whoever finds this document to look at my children and see not a burden or a responsibility, but a treasure. To understand that the family table is not just a business, it's a place where families are made, where hearts are healed, and where love is served with every dish. I'm also leaving my recipes, not just the ones written in the kitchen notebooks, but those only Lily knows, learned by my side since she was tall enough to stand on the special stool her grandfather made. I trust she'll know when and with whom to share them. And if you, the one reading this letter, are the right person, someone who sees beyond legal papers and recognizes the true worth of what I leave for my children, then you have my eternal gratitude. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is caring for someone else's children as if they were your own. With hope and love, Rosemary Bennett. Ethan read the letter to Lily that night after the twins had fallen asleep. She listened silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. "She knew," Lily repeated, just as she had when they discovered the will. "She knew you would find us, that you would really love us." "How could she have known?" Ethan asked softly. "Because Mommy always said true love finds a way," Lily replied. Like the smell of fresh bread guiding people to a bakery, or the aroma of tomato sauce making everyone want to come home. Ethan pulled his daughter into a hug, marveling at her wisdom. The twins slept peacefully on the office sofa, oblivious to the drama unfolding around them. Occasionally, one of them mumbled "Dada" in his sleep, a word that still made Ethan's heart melt every time. Tomorrow, he would face the lawyers. He'd have to explain everything to the authorities, the family court judge, everyone involved in the guardianship proceedings. It would be hard and scary, possibly the biggest battle of his life. But right now, with the scent of fresh basil drifting through the newly painted office, with Lily in his arms and the twins sleeping quietly, Ethan knew he had made the right choice. Because Rosemary was right. The greatest treasures are the ones we can love. And he loved these children more than anything in the world, more than any restaurant or fortune. "Dad," Lily murmured sleepily, "read me that part again, where Mommy talks about true love, finding a way." Ethan picked up the letter again, though he already knew the words by heart. As he read, Lily drifted off, a soft smile on her face. "Do you think she'd be happy?" Ethan whispered, more to himself than to Lily. "With everything we're doing here?" "She already is," Lily mumbled, half asleep. "That's why the basil is growing so well. Mommy always said plants only grow strong when there's love in the air. Ethan smiled through tears. Tomorrow he would face the world, lawyers, judges, authorities. It would be a difficult battle, perhaps the most important of his life. But tonight, in this moment, he was just a father, holding his sleepy daughter, watching over his children, and feeling the love Rosemary had predicted fill every corner of this special place. Because in the end, the family table wasn't just a restaurant or a disputed property. It was the place where an unlikely family had found each other, where love and destiny intertwined in the most unexpected way, and where 3 children and a lonely man learned that sometimes the strongest bonds are those the heart chooses to create. And if Rosemary was watching from somewhere, Ethan was certain she was smiling, satisfied that her plan had worked. Because sometimes true love really does find a way, guided by the aroma of old memories and the promise of new stories yet to come. In light of all the evidence presented, this court recognizes the exceptional bond between the petitioner, Ethan Hayes, and the minors, Lily, Owen, and Ethan Bennett. Considering the best interest of the children and the clear wishes of the late Rosemary Bennett expressed in her will, I grant permanent custody of the children to Mr. Hayes, who will also serve as the legal administrator of the family table until the heirs reach legal age. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom, but Ethan could barely believe what he was hearing. Lily, sitting beside him, squeezed his hand tight. Behind them, the audience of neighbors, friends, and former customers erupted in applause. "We won, Dad," Lily whispered, her eyes bright with joy. Ethan hugged her, tears of relief and happiness streaming down his face. Over the past few months, during the legal process, there were times he feared losing it all, but the community stood firmly by his side, testifying day after day to the true love binding this improbable family. 3 months later, the aroma of fresh tomato sauce filled the kitchen of the family table. Ethan adjusted the seasoning, following the precise directions of Lily, who supervised his technique from atop her special stool, a replica of the one her grandfather had made years ago. "More basil, Dad," she instructed, wearing her small white apron embroidered with her name, identical to the one she wore in the days of her mother. "And remember to stir with love." The restaurant was packed for its reopening night. Through the kitchen window, Ethan could see the twins safely playing in the memory corner, where old and new photos told the story of 2 generations of the family table. "Ethan," Ashley called from the kitchen door, "there's someone here to see the chef." He looked up, surprised to see his father, Walter, entering with a package in his hands. "I thought you should have this," Walter said, handing him the parcel. It was an old apron, yellowed with age. "It belonged to your grandmother. She always dreamed you'd follow in her footsteps in the kitchen one day." Ethan felt his throat tighten as he recognized the fabric. How many times had he watched his grandmother wear this very apron while cooking Sunday lunch? "Put it on, Dad," Lily encouraged. "Then we'll match." With almost reverent care, Ethan donned the apron. Somehow it felt right, like every step on his journey had led him to this moment. The dining area was unrecognizable from the abandoned place Ethan had first entered months ago. The walls, painted in the gentle yellow that looked like sunlight, showcased a mix of old and new photographs. Rosemary's picture presided over the bar, her radiant smile seeming to bless everyone who walked in. Checkered tablecloths covered every table, each occupied. Mrs. Peterson, in her usual corner seat, served samples of her famous homemade desserts, now officially on the menu. Mr. Johnson, once again the maitre d', guided guests with his signature elegance. "Da-da! Da-da!" the twins called in unison from the memory corner, proud of the block tower they had built. "It looks amazing, my loves," Ethan responded, marveling at how quickly they were growing. They were no longer the frightened babies he'd found in the basement. They were confident toddlers, secure in the love of their rebuilt family. Back in the kitchen, Lily continued her vigilant supervision of the sauce's preparation. "You know, Dad," she said thoughtfully, I think I understand why Mommy loved cooking so much." "Why is that, Princess?" "Because when we cook with love, we're not just making food, we're making memories." She paused, tasting the sauce with the seriousness of a professional chef. "Like tonight. Everyone out there is making new memories in our restaurant." "Our restaurant," Ethan repeated softly. The phrase no longer carried the legal weight it once did. Now it was simply the truth. This place belonged to all of them, not because of documents or court rulings, but because they had built a family here. Service continued late into the evening. Ethan was surprised at how natural it felt to be here, cooking with his daughter, hearing the twins' laughter, feeling the warmth and life that radiated from every corner of the restaurant. In a brief lull, he found Lily gazing at Rosemary's photo. "She would be proud of you," Ethan said softly. Lily smiled, that wise smile that sometimes made Ethan forget she was only 6. "She'd be proud of both of us, Dad. Mommy always said love is like a good recipe. It needs the right ingredients at the right time." Ethan hugged his daughter, looking out at the bustling restaurant. Every table had a story, families celebrating, friends laughing, couples sharing special moments. It was exactly what Rosemary had described in her letter, a place where love was served alongside every dish. The twins toddled over, demanding attention. Ethan scooped them up, his heart overflowing as Lily recounted for the 1,000th time the story of how their family formed. "And then Dad found us, and the restaurant became magical again," she concluded, her eyes shining. Ethan smiled, knowing it was he who had been found by 3 children who needed a father, by a restaurant that needed new life, by a love so great it transformed him completely. The family table was alive once more, humming with the laughter of customers, the aroma of good food, and above all, the love of a family that chose each other. Because sometimes the best flavors don't come just from the right ingredients, but from the memories we create together. And there, in that kitchen, with Lily at his side and the twins safe in his arms, Ethan Hayes finally understood the true meaning of success. It wasn't about money or power, but about the love we share and the lives we touch. Rosemary had been right. The family table was magical, not because of the food, though it was excellent, but because of its ability to bring people together, to forge bonds, to transform strangers into family. And as the night wore on and more customers arrived, Ethan knew they had achieved something extraordinary. Not just reopening a restaurant, but creating a real home, where every meal was served with an extra helping of love, and every new memory fit seamlessly alongside the old, like ingredients in a perfect recipe that would continue nourishing hearts for generations to come.